Talk Radio 1450 WKAL. It's Bob and Rick in the morning. News time 8:40, now in Rome. Special in-studio guest making, appearance number 3, I think, is, or maybe more, is Rabbi Didy. Rabbi, good to see you again. Thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, too.
And as a matter of fact, you brought along a special guest. I thought what I'd do is let you introduce the young lady to your right.
Her name is Rachel Landman. Wait, she can introduce herself.
Okay,
actually.
Absolutely.
My name is Rachel Landman. I'm a Hamilton College student. I'm a senior, and I'm a member of the Hillel and also now the new Chabad in Clinton.
Now, Rachel, where are you from originally? Central New York, or
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
From Brooklyn, yeah. So a little bit of ways. What made you decide to come to Hamilton?
I grew up in the city, and I wanted to get
Run
a
away.
change. I wanted to get a change from the city. Hamilton, I drove up, and it was a beautiful campus. It's a beautiful area, and I wanted to experience living in a smaller town, which Clinton definitely is.
Well, it's kind of funny because I hear a lot. I do a lot of sports and a lot of interviews with college students up at Morrisville State, and a lot of the kids from Morrisville State are also from downstate and wanted to get away from the big city and get away from some things there. And I'll tell you what, Hamilton's a little bit bigger town than Morrisville State.
Really?
So yeah, so you've done well. What are you studying in Hamilton?
I'm studying biology and also government.
Oh, biology and government.
Yes.
What do you hope to do with when you graduate with that?
Well, next year I'm going to be working at the Religious Action Center, which is an advocacy organization for the Reformed Jewish movement in Washington, D.C. And so I'm hoping to be advocating about a variety of different issues, but it's because of my biology degree, hopefully something related to the environment, public health, and kind of on behalf of the Reformed Jewish movement.
Fantastic. My goals in college were to graduate. That was about it. Just get out of college, and then we'll take it from there. Rabbi, once again, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And we thought it'd be a good time to bring you in and kind of talk about the Jewish holiday Passover that's coming up. Maybe you can give us some background and tell us how you're going to be celebrating in Hamilton as well.
Okay. Well, Passover is, I think, the most widely celebrated Jewish holiday, even more widely celebrated than Yom Kippur. That's the numbers, the statistics show. Mm-hmm. Why, I'm not sure, because there's many things you're not allowed to do on Passover. But I think from an identity, Jewish identity perspective, it is the most important Jewish holiday. It's the holiday that we as a nation became the Jewish people after leaving Egypt.
How much do you think that's got a lot to do with the association with Moses being, such a strong figure in the Jewish
It's also
faith?
The primary, the only biblical holiday that has a very big story associated with it. The other two are, and Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, the additional ones, they sort of don't have a big story, and Jews love stories. Mm-hmm. So, it's almost a whole book of the Torah, which talks about the entire enslavement and subsequent exodus. Mm-hmm. So it really gets a lot of attention in the Torah. But the themes of the holiday today, there's an older Talmudic idea, which is that every generation, every person must experience the exodus from Egypt as if they themselves are leaving Egypt right now. And most of us have not visited Egypt. And how do you experience sort of like, what does it even mean? But it's a typical Jewish concept that we don't have Jewish holidays just to commemorate. We're not here to commemorate and remember. But we want to do more than that, and that is to experience what we originally celebrated the first time. And one of the things is that the Jewish people, when they left Egypt, they were experiencing a freedom from inhibitions and limitations. And in fact, the Hebrew word, the etymology, the Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim. And in Hebrew, that's the same exact word for limitations. So when one leaves, in a spiritual sense, or a psychological sense, when you leave Egypt every year, you're leaving the limitations of the things in life, in your Jewish life, in your religious life, and also in just your regular life. There are always things we think we cannot do. But when we put our minds to it, or when we say, no, I can do it, we are sort of breaking out of that Egypt.
And Chuck, the whole Passover, one of the things was there wasn't time to pack up a lot of stuff, right? So the whole idea, maybe not the whole idea, but the idea is to be ready, right? Is that part of it?
Yeah. The Jewish people didn't have time. to pack up. So that's traditionally the bread didn't have time to rise, and that's why we eat matzah. One of the reasons why we eat matzah, and we also don't eat any non-matzah, any bread or any other leavened food over the holiday. And so I guess part of it is that we left in haste, and so we remember that. There is an aspect of that future redemptions should be not in the same way, where we leave much calmly, because we are more ready and able to. We've reached the level where we can leave in a much calmer way, as opposed to the original Exodus.
And how does a typical Jewish household celebrate Passover?
Oh my gosh! First of all, they go crazy with cleaning because you have to get rid of all the. Why doesn't Rachel share some of this?
Absolutely,
I don't
Rachel.
Sure. Yes. I grew up celebrating Passover every year with my family, and it starts always maybe about a month before, with my mom not purchasing anything else and us having to clean out everything. So we get to about a week before Passover, and there's no food that's not kosher for Passover left in the house, and then we have to figure out what to do for the next week before so we don't buy any new food. And so we spend a long time preparing and eating all of our chametz, which is the food that is not kosher for Passover. And then about the week before Passover, we all start cleaning. We put away all of our dishes that are not kosher for Passover that we've used throughout the year, and unpack our dishes that are only used for these 8 days during Passover that won't have any unkosher Passover food on them. And my brother and my job was always to make the scary signs for the cupboards that had our dishes that we couldn't open, that we couldn't use on Passover. And so we set out all of our new dishes, and then we plan the Seder, which is the big meal that we have the first 2 nights of Passover, where you read the Haggadah, which is the book that tells the story of Passover and a lot of blessings that you say on Passover. And so usually it's a big family affair. I know that as Rabbi Didy talked about a little bit, Passover is often one of the most celebrated holidays, and I think for us, a lot of times it's because it's such a family affair. Usually we'll get together with aunts and uncles and cousins. We rotate between different people's houses to celebrate the Seders. So it's a nice family affair that brings everyone together, at least for the first 2 nights, and then you have also the next 8 days that you're still celebrating Passover. At least, even if you're going about your daily life, you're still celebrating in some respect by the food that you eat.
And about how young do you start participating in Passover? Sounds like you start as soon as you can.
Yes, from birth you start participating in Passover. I never ate non-kosher for Passover food, and always participating in the Seder. It's a fun tradition that is often that many families have, is that the youngest person in the family does the 4 questions, which are 4 questions that ask about why is this night different than other nights, and talks about things that we do on other nights that we do differently on Passover to remember the story of the Exodus. And so I think that's a fun way to get younger participants. I remember I have an older brother, but it was exciting. I didn't obviously start right away, but once I got old enough to be able to read the questions in Hebrew, I started. That was my role in the Seder, and I'm the youngest in my family, so that's been my role forever and will probably be my role for a long time. But it's a fun way to get all the kids involved.
What were some of the scary pictures that you put together on those cupboards? You kind of piqued my interest when I heard that.
We like to do like a skull and crossbones.
Oh yeah, okay.
To get or keep out, keep away.
Mm-hmm.
Pirates. I don't know.
It's
whatever
Halloween in the Landman house.
Whatever we thought was scary and would get us not to open the cupboards with the dishes. I think it was also my mom's way of getting us out of the way while she was actually cleaning.
You know, mom has a method to all her madness. Let me tell you. But it's once again, it's the whole family. And Rachel, I think, even pointed to it, Rabbi. It's not just mom, dad, and the kids, but it's aunts and uncles and a whole community celebrating.
I just want to touch upon that Rachel mentioned the little kids from age 0. One of the main themes of the holiday, and it's even mentioned biblically a number of times in a number of verses, is the concept of education. How important the education, and the whole theme of the night is children asking questions. We have the famous 4 questions that the kids ask, but the 4 questions are just to start them off. You know, sometimes you have to give people the questions to ask, but really to get them to ask more questions and to talk as much about the Exodus, its meaning, its what it means to us, and etc. And we do a lot of weird things and like rituals during the Seder, during that ritual meal. And the rabbis sometimes say, "Why do we do this?" And the answer is just to perk up the interest of the kid. So like, there's no reason, but just perk up the interest of the kid.
I love
and
it.
there's a very, I just want to stop here to make a little point. Today, in America, today happens to be National Education and Sharing Day. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Okay,
Did not
neither
know
did
that.
most people. And that is, it was officially inaugurated in 1978 by President Jimmy Carter, and it's the only national holiday, I believe, that works not by the secular calendar, but by the Jewish calendar.
Really? Okay.
And every year it changes its English date. The reason is because it falls out on the Jewish birth date of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the leader of the Chabad movement, who passed away in 1994. And President Carter inaugurated the day in honor of the Rebbe's leadership and vision in education for all, and the concept of something that may have lost somewhat in America is the concept of not educating just academically, but educating the person to make, as we say in Jewish, a mensch. We make people. We don't just educate people to know things. And the fact, and the Rebbe really fought for that both in the Jewish community, but also all over the world. And so this day has every year become a holiday, and this year Barack Obama also inaugurated the day, or whatever the formal word is. And it's amazing that the Rebbe's birthday is just a few days before Pesach, before Passover, and it falls out the juxtaposition of his birthday now in America. It's Education and Sharing Day, and one of the central themes of Pesach is actually education and the education of children and the next generation. It's in fact the two main words about Pesach. If you ask a parent what is the Seder, they'll tell you two words in Hebrew, V'higadata levincha, which means you should tell it to your children. That's the theme.
Boy, there's so many different things I can launch off from there. But I like the whole idea of it's more than just filling somebody's head with ideas, thoughts, dates, or any type of information. It's actually building a person to hopefully live out what they've learned.
I mean, yeah, that's really, education is supposed to be all-encompassing, and we don't, I mean, you can learn all wonderful things, but at the end of the day, it's practicing what you've learned and applying it to every area of life, and hopefully being a good person as well.
So, in addition to the meal and apparently cleaning the house for 8 months out of the year, getting ready for it, what else happens at a Jewish family celebrating the Passover?
There's many little rituals that we do. Like, for instance, the night before, even though we've cleaned for a few weeks or a week before, the night before Passover, we go around the house looking for chametz. We actually put out a few pieces so that we should actually find stuff, because most neurotic Jews already have them all gone. So we just put a few pieces, and then you go with a candlelight. There's a whole tradition on how to do it, and a feather, and then you have a bag, and then you burn it the next day. But other than that, on Passover itself, for the 8-day holiday in the diaspora in Israel, it's 7 days. We don't need any chametz. We don't need any bread, cake, anything that has whatever, wheat, spelt, oats, rye, and whatever the last one I forgot, barley, anything that's made of those 5 grains that isn't made in the way matzah is made, which basically outlaws almost everything, you really can't eat. So we eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of fried food, and there's many other restrictions, but it's not a restriction in that way. It's restrictions to hopefully bring us to a bigger place and a bigger understanding. And some Jews get very caught up in the nitty-gritty of the holiday that they sometimes could lose it's easy to lose the meaning of it, but we try to constantly remember why we're doing it.
Well, I was just thinking as we were talking about holidays and how everything is done on purpose and with a plan. And sometimes I think in America, if we have a holiday, it's just another excuse to throw a party.
And for the big companies to sell you some products.
Oh, absolutely. And they're getting really good at that, too. They're ramping it up. Rachel, what is your fondest memory of Passover with your family?
I think that the Seders are definitely one of my fondest memories. One thing, you do the same Seder every year. You do it 2 nights of the year, so we try to do fun things to add in, especially for the kids. I think that what Didy spoke about education is something that's really important in my family. And so a lot of times my dad will focus on specific things. When we were little, we did a fake news report about the 10 plagues, which I thought was really fun. It got me to learn about the 10 plagues and remember them. And so when it came to that part of the Seder where you talk about the 10 plagues, then my dad and I pretended that the news reporting on these 10 plagues that were coming down in Egypt. So I think there's lots of fun ways that you can make the Seder more interactive so that kids get involved, so kids enjoy it. One thing that we're doing at Hillel this year, which I think speaks exactly to the education, is that we're doing a social justice Seder on the first night, and a lot of the Reform movement has a whole plan for different ways to incorporate social justice into Passover. And because it's all about the Exodus and about getting freed from slavery, we talk about modern forms of slavery or different issues that are kind of that are keeping us trapped. And so we're talking about that in our Seder. We're adding things into the 4 questions, just trying to promote some more social action and tikkun olam, which is repairing the world for the Jewish community at Hamilton. And it's something we've never done, but we're really excited to kind of take that idea of Passover as being an education and a way to motivate people to become better people, to become a mensch, as Didy said. And so we're really excited to try that out at our Seder.
Now, obviously, you're not going to be home for the entire Passover. You're going to be in Hamilton, I would imagine?
For the first Seder, I'll be spending it. I'm leading the Seder at Hamilton on Friday night.
Okay.
And then on Saturday, I'm going home for the Seder.
Oh, fantastic. So do you have something planned for some of the other students, Pastor, over at Hamilton?
Yeah, we as we've spoken previously, we service the local Jewish community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be conducting 2 Seders, the first 2 nights, which is when the Seders are done, and the rest of the holiday will be offering special Passover meals, traditional Passover meals, and many students will be joining us every night of the week for a delicious Passover dinner. And throughout the week, we'll be distributing matzah and encouraging people to get involved in the holiday.
Fantastic. We're talking with Rabbi Didy Wax and Rachel Landman here as well, one of the students over at Hamilton College. And we just have a couple of minutes left. I just want to remind everybody, and we talked with Gloria Greenfield this morning, but the film Body and Soul, the State of the Jewish Nation, is going to be presented tonight at Hamilton, 7 o'clock at the Bradford Auditorium in the Kerner Johnson building, and it's free of charge. Rachel, you going to go?
Yes, I will. I'm very excited. I watched one of her other films, Judeophobia, with Hillel.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that was really interesting. So when we found out that Hamilton was hosting her, we were very excited. So hopefully a lot of other members of Hillel and I will attend the event and get to meet her tonight.
As a matter of fact, I think her plane leaves in about an hour and a half, or she's headed out of Boston in an hour and a half, so she'll be there tonight as well. So it's kind of one of the few times you can go and see the movie and actually meet the producer and the director. I don't know how many times that happens in someone's life where you can watch the film and then meet the person behind it. So once again, that's tonight at 7 o'clock, and it's free of charge. Rabbi, before we let you go, any last thoughts on what we talked about today?
I just wish all Jewish listeners and those not celebrating should also merit to have a real freedom and liberation from all our inhibitions, and in a positive way, that is. And and the main thing is to be able to accomplish doing something that we haven't yet been able to do or that we didn't believe we could do, and that's really true liberation, true freedom from one's own limitations. And so many of us suffer from that, and hopefully we won't next year.
All right, Rabbi, good to see you again. Well, I know we'll have you back. Rachel, great to meet you, and we wish you the best in your future studies. We appreciate it. All right, coming up next, World News Update with CBS News.